Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are stepping into a world that, let's be honest, most of us try to avoid thinking about until we absolutely have to.
That's not exactly dinner party conversation, is
Yes,
it?
not at all. We are digging into the archives of the Funeral Channel Network and a whole stack of reports from the funeral program site to talk about a piece of paper.
It sounds incredibly mundane when you put it that way. A folded piece of paper.
It does, but that's the deception, isn't it? I mean, we've all held one. You walk into a chapel, someone hands you a program, you scan the order of service, maybe you glance at the photos.
You fold it, you put it in your pocket.
Exactly. But looking at this stack of research, the environmental studies, the etiquette guides, the industry trend reports, this is not just about stationery. It really feels like we're looking at a microcosm of a much larger battle.
That is exactly what it is. It's a collision. You have these two massive tectonic plates in our culture just grinding against each other.
And what are they?
On one side, you have what all the sources call ancestral traditions, the weight of history, of ritual, of physical presence. And on the other, you have digital innovation, efficiency, speed, global reach.
And the funeral program is the friction point. It's where these two forces meet.
It's the fault line, yeah. And the scale of this shift is what really jumped out at me from the reports. This isn't just a few tech-savvy families making a different choice.
No, it's a demographic storm. The sources describe this overlap that has never happened before in history.
They call it the silver tsunami meets the digital native, which is such a great image.
It is. So you have the baby boomers, a generation that, values tangibility and tradition.
Things you can touch and hold.
Right. And they are entering the death care market in massive numbers. But the people planning their services or attending them are their kids and grandkids, millennials and Gen Z.
People who manage their banking, their dating, and their memories almost exclusively through a screen.
So that's our mission today. We want to unpack how this humble guide, the thing that tells you when to stand and when to sit, is evolving. The sources use this phrase that it stopped me in my tracks. They called it a sophisticated artifact of legacy.
It's a heavy phrase, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's accurate. It's no longer just a schedule. It's become a strategic choice between physical permanence and, well, digital omnipresence.
Okay, so let's start with the physical. Let's start with the paper. Because in a world where everything is moving to the cloud, the data shows that the printed program is surprisingly resilient.
Oh, absolutely. It's not dying out the way, say, the phone book did. Not even close.
Why not? What's keeping it alive?
To understand why, we have to look at the psychology of grief. The source material refers to this concept called tactile grounding.
I found this part fascinating. So it's less about reading and more about just holding it.
Exactly. It's about the physical sensation. I mean, think about the physiology of walking into a funeral. You walk into that space, your heart rate is likely elevated.
You're anxious. You might be about to see estranged family members. You are literally confronting mortality.
It is a high-stress, high-emotion environment. And when an usher hands you a physical program, your hands have something to do. They have a job.
It's an anchor.
Literally.
Mm-hmm.
The research suggests that the simple act of gripping the paper, feeling its weight, its texture, it steadies the hands. It anchors your attention in physical reality. When your mind is just spinning or you're fighting back tears, having a tangible object to focus on provides a kind of a neurological signal of stability.
Which is the exact opposite of what a phone does.
The polar opposite. If you hand someone a phone, their brain is conditioned to expect dopamine hits, notifications, texts, news alerts. It's a device of distraction.
It pulls you out of the moment.
Whereas paper is a device of contemplation.
Yeah.
It demands nothing from you. It doesn't vibrate. It doesn't dim if you don't touch it for 30 seconds. It just...
That reliability factor was a huge point in the Funeral Channel Network data. It seems trivial, but imagine you are, trying to read a scripture passage from a digital program on your phone during the service.
And you get a push notification that your Uber Eats has arrived.
Right, or your battery dies. Or the church Wi-Fi is terrible and it just won't load.
It shatters the moment completely. It breaks what you could call the sacred seal of the event. Paper respects the solemnity because it is single purpose. It exists only for this hour, for this person.
And there's another layer to it, the keepsake factor. I was thinking about this while reading the notes. I have a shoebox in my closet with programs from my grandmother's service, my uncle's service. They're like 20 years old.
What do they look like? What do they feel like?
They're yellowed, the corners are bent, the ink is a little bit faded. You can tell they've been handled.
And that degradation is actually part of its value. It becomes an artifact. The sources describe these as physical artifacts of grief.
I like that phrase.
They age with the mourner. You might tuck one into a Bible or a memory box. Every single time you touch it, that texture, that slight musty smell, it triggers a sensory memory of that day.
Whereas a digital file.
A PDF is immortal, but it's also sterile. It's perfect. It looks exactly the same 10 years later as it did on the day of the funeral.
There's no history to it.
It doesn't carry the patina of memory, if you want to be poetic about it. It's what the reports call informational preservation, not physical memory.
Okay, so if the physical version is the heavyweight champion of emotional grounding, why is the digital sector exploding? The graphs in the report look like a hockey stick. They're just shooting straight up.
Well, it comes down to necessity. And specifically, the reports highlight three main drivers: accessibility, speed, and flexibility.
Let's start with accessibility, because families aren't, clustered in the same village anymore. We're all over the place.
We are a globalized diaspora. It is standard now for a family to be spread across 3 continents, 4 time zones. If you print 200 programs for a chapel in Ohio, what about your cousin in London or your brother in Tokyo?
They're completely cut out of that ritual. They're structurally excluded.
That's the perfect way to put it. A digital program, whether it's a hosted website or a downloadable PDF, it allows for what the industry calls remote attendance.
It's an acknowledgement that grief doesn't stop at the border.
Exactly. It lets those people participate, to read the eulogy, to see the order of service, to feel included, even if they're watching a live stream at 3 in the morning their time.
Okay, so that's accessibility, and then there's speed. This one felt very, very practical to me. Death doesn't always give you a 2-week notice.
Rarely. I mean, very rarely.
Yeah.
And this is where the logistics of print become an absolute nightmare for families.
How so?
If you want a professional full-service print, and we're talking heavy cardstock, full bleed photos, professional typesetting, you are looking at a supply chain. There's design time, proofing time, printing, drying, shipping.
So it's not instant.
It is a minimum of 1 to 3 business days.
Yeah.
Minimum. And that's if everything goes perfectly.
So if a loved one passes on a Tuesday and the service is on a Thursday?
You simply cannot do it. The physics of shipping and printing prevents it. But digital, it's instantaneous. You can have a fully designed, beautiful memorial program live on a URL in 20 minutes.
Wow. Which I guess leads directly into the third point, flexibility. The idea of a living document.
This is the feature that saves funerals. Because things go wrong all the time.
Like what's the classic funeral disaster?
The classic. Realizing you misspelled the deceased's middle name after you've already printed 500 copies.
Oh, no.
It's a gut-wrenching feeling. And with paper, that mistake is indelible. It's permanent. You either hand them out with a clumsy Sharpie correction, or you trash them and have nothing.
But with digital?
You log in, you fix the typo, you hit save, and everyone refreshing the page sees the correction instantly. No drama.
Or I was thinking, what if the reception venue changes last minute?
A perfect example. A burst pipe at the church hall, a sudden weather event. The digital program can be updated in real time to say, attention. Reception, move to the community center on Elm Street. It becomes a dynamic communication tool, not just a static souvenir.
So we have these two powerful contenders. Paper is for the heart and the hands, for the people in the room. Digital is for the logistics and the global reach. And the industry solution seems to be, well, why choose?
Exactly. Welcome to the hybrid memorial era. That's the industry term for it now. The trend isn't replacement, it's redundancy.
Redundancy. That usually sounds like a bad thing in business, but here it's a strategy.
It's a safety net. It's a both-hand approach. You utilize printed programs for the service itself, for your older guests, for the formal etiquette, for that tactile grounding we talked about.
The people in the pews.
Right. But you create the digital version for the archive, for sharing on social media, for the extended network of friends and colleagues around the world.
It's inclusive.
It ensures that no one is left out because of geography, but also that no one is alienated because they aren't tech savvy. You serve both masters.
But serving two masters usually costs double the money, right?
Yeah.
And this is where I really want to drill down into the economics of remembrance, because the financial data in these reports was stark.
It's a huge reality check. We often talk about innovation and all these wonderful new options, and we assume everyone can just upgrade.
But that's not the reality.
Not at all. The statistic from the Funeral Channel Network is sobering. 55.4% of funeral consumers in the U.S. earn less than $50,000 a year.
Wow. Over half. That puts a serious cap on any kind of upsell.
It does. And you have to remember the context. We're in what the industry calls the COVID recoil. During the pandemic, funerals were forced to be small, cheap, or sometimes non-existent.
People got used to a different kind of service.
And now, the industry is trying to get back to normal. But consumers are facing inflation, economic uncertainty. They are scrutinizing every single line item on that funeral home invoice.
Okay, so let's break down the actual price tag. If I'm that consumer, I'm in that 55%, what does the paper option really look like for my wallet?
If you go the traditional route, you hire the funeral home or a professional print shop to do everything for you. You're paying for expertise and materials. That means design fees, premium paper stock, ink, rush shipping.
The works.
The works. The reports estimate this runs anywhere between $300 and $700, sometimes even more.
$700, that's a car payment.
No.
Something people look at for an hour.
Exactly. Now compare that to the DIY approach. You go to a resource like the funeral program site, you buy a pre-made template for, say, $25.
Okay.
You go to Staples, you buy a nice ream of paper and some new ink cartridges for your home printer. Maybe you spend $60 total.
That is a massive gap, 700 versus 60.
It's a different world. And then there's the purely digital option. If you just create a memorial page or host a PDF online, the cost can be close to zero. Maybe up to $50 if you want some premium features on a website.
So for a family on a tight budget, this isn't a stylistic choice between modern and traditional. It's an economic lifeline.
It's a necessity. Abandoning the professional print job might be what allows them to afford something else that's more important to them, like the flowers or the reception.
But there is another currency involved here that the reports mentioned, the time currency. And this is where the economics collide with religion.
This is a crucial intersection. We touched on speed earlier, but for certain faiths, speed isn't a convenience, it's a commandment.
We're talking about Jewish and Islamic traditions
Yeah.
specifically.
In many Orthodox Jewish and Islamic communities, burial is required to take place as soon as possible, ideally within 24 hours of death.
So that 1 to 3 business day lead time for professional printing isn't just inconvenient, it's impossible.
It creates a structural incompatibility. You cannot physically get a professional print job designed, printed, and shipped in time. It's not an option.
So for these communities, digital or DIY isn't just cheaper, it's a religious necessity.
It is. You need something you can produce now, in your home, before sundown. The technology actually allows for greater religious observance in this case.
I want to touch on one other economic aspect the sources warned about. This one felt like a uniquely modern nightmare. They called it the subscription trap.
Ah, yes. The sassification of death. Software as a service.
Can you explain that for the listener? What does that mean?
Sure. In the old days, you bought a headstone, you paid for it once, it was installed, and it sat there for 100 years. The transaction was done.
A one-time purchase.
Exactly. In the digital space, some companies operate on a hosting model. You pay a monthly or an annual fee to keep the memorial website online. You're effectively renting the memorial.
You're renting it.
Yes. And the ethical dilemma is obvious, isn't it? What happens if the credit card on file expires 5 years from now? What happens if the family falls on hard times and stops paying the $9.99 a month?
Does the memorial just get deleted?
Yeah. Or archived or hidden behind a paywall? The sources call this the subscription trap. It's effectively holding a person's legacy hostage.
It's like saying, pay us every month or grandpa disappears from the internet.
It sounds dystopian, but it's a real business model. And that is why you're seeing a pushback. Platforms like Keeper and Forever Mist are pivoting to what they call lifetime fees.
So a one-time payment again?
Exactly. You pay a larger sum upfront, say $150 or so, and the hosting is endowed forever. It treats the digital space like a cemetery plot. You buy it once, and it's yours in perpetuity.
That seems like the only ethical way to do it, really. You can't put an expiration date on a memorial that's tied to a bank balance.
It's a critical distinction consumers really need to look for in the fine print. Is it a subscription or a one-time purchase?
Okay, I want to pivot now. Let's talk about the environment, because when I started reading this section, I had a very specific assumption, a very common one, I think.
Let me guess. Paper cuts down trees, uses bleach, ends up in landfills. Bad. Digital is air, light, magic from the cloud. Good.
You nailed it. That was exactly my thinking. The digital halo, as you called it.
It's the standard assumption for almost everything. Go paperless, save a tree.
But the environmental audit in our source material basically holds up a giant stop sign and says, not so fast.
It's the shocker of the research, isn't it? It forces you to look at the full picture. And yes, the paper impact is real. We can't ignore that.
Let's start there. How bad is paper?
It's significant. The reports state that producing 1 ton of paper requires about 20,000 gallons of water and generates over a ton of CO2. The paper industry as a whole is a heavy global emitter.
So my initial assumption about paper being resource intensive was right. It's heavy.
It is, but you have to compare it to the invisible weight of digital. The internet isn't magic, it's not a cloud. It's coal and it's natural gas.
Can you explain that connection for us?
Every single time you view a website or stream a video or look at a photo, that data travels through a massive physical infrastructure of servers, routers, cell towers, and data centers. And all of that hardware consumes electricity.
Huge amounts of it, I imagine.
Staggering amounts. The sources note that cloud storage and data centers now account for about 2.7% of global greenhouse emissions.
2.7%. That sounds small until you compare it to something.
It's larger than the entire commercial airline industry.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying the internet pollutes more than all the planes in the sky?
According to the Environmental Paper Network and other life cycle studies cited, yes. A single large data center can consume as much electricity as 50,000 homes. And the crucial difference is how that energy is used over time.
Okay, this brings us to what the reports called the usage threshold.
This is the key concept. It's the life cycle assessment, or LCA. When you print a funeral program, the carbon cost is paid once. You cut the tree, you process the paper, you print the ink. That's it. You can hold that piece of paper for 50 years, and it will never emit another gram of CO2.
It's a fixed upfront cost.
Right, but a digital file. It consumes energy every single time it's accessed. Every time someone loads the web page, every second that file sits spinning on a receiver hard drive somewhere in Virginia or Oregon, it is drawing power from the grid.
So for a funeral, a single-use event.
Think about the use case. A funeral program is usually read once, intensely, for an hour or so, by a limited number of people. The LCA studies suggest that reading digitally is only greener if you are consuming a massive volume of data over a long period. One study cited a threshold of around 5,000 pages.
So what, I'd need to read 5,000 pages of text on my tablet to offset the carbon cost of manufacturing that tablet and powering it, compared to just reading 5,000 pages of paper.
Roughly, yes. So for a single-use short-term event like a funeral, a simple printed sheet, especially if it's on recycled paper and locally sourced, might actually have a lower total carbon footprint than a multimedia-heavy website with video streaming that lives on a server drawing power forever.
That completely flips the script. We think we're being eco-friendly by scanning a QR code at a service, but we might actually be burning more coal to power the server than it would take to just print the pamphlet in the first place.
It's incredibly nuanced, and the industry is moving towards solutions like zero-carbon farewell programs that use green energy data centers. But right now, the simple assumption that digital automatically equals green is just false.
That's a huge takeaway. Okay, let's move into what the reports call the cultural and religious matrix. We touched on the speed of burial for some faiths, but the clash between tech and tradition goes deeper than just logistics. It's theological, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. And the most prominent example in all the guides is Orthodox Judaism and the observation of the Sabbath.
The Shabbat rules.
Right. From sundown Friday to sundown Saturday, work is prohibited. But work isn't just defined as manual labor. It includes a category of 39 creative acts, or malacha. And specifically, there is a prohibition called kotev, which means writing.
And how in the world does that apply to a smartphone?
Well, many rabbinical authorities interpret the act of completing an electrical circuit like waking up a phone screen or clicking a link as a form of building or writing. You are creating light and data where there was none before.
So using a digital funeral program on a Saturday is a sin.
It's a violation of the Sabbath. So if a family decides to go fully digital and only provides a QR code for a Saturday service, they are, without realizing it, effectively hanging a sign on the chapel door that says, "Observant Jews, not welcome."
It's an accessibility issue, but a spiritual one this time.
Exactly. In that context, paper is not just traditional. It is mandatory. It's the only technology that is Shabbat compliant.
What about other traditions? The reports mentioned Islam.
With Islam, there's a strong emphasis on simplicity and the swift return of the body to the earth. Ostentation is discouraged. So while digital is incredibly useful for that 24-hour speed we talked about, a very flashy, high-production video tribute might be seen as clashing with the required humility and solemnity of the occasion.
So less is more.
In that tradition, yes. The medium needs to respect the message.
And looking at the more formal Christian liturgies, Catholicism, Eastern Orthodoxy, There is what the guides call an etiquette in the sanctuary issue.
This is the glowing rectangle problem.
I can just imagine a priest looking out at the congregation during the homily and seeing a sea of faces just bathed in that eerie blue light from their
It
phones.
looks deeply disrespectful. Even if they are diligently reading the hymns or the scripture, visually, it mimics the behavior of someone checking Instagram or texting during church. It breaks the communal focus.
It isolates everyone in their own little bubble of light.
It does. Which puts the funeral director right in the middle of this cultural and technological crossfire.
Their job is getting more complicated.
They're evolving into what the reports call digital consultants. It's not enough to just arrange the flowers anymore. The sources now recommend that if a family insists on digital-only programs, the officiant needs to make a specific announcement at the start of the service.
What do they have to say?
Something like, "We invite you to access the digital program now by scanning the code. After you have done so, we kindly ask you to silence and put away your phones for the remainder of the service."
So you have to explicitly give permission to use the tech and then just as explicitly tell them to put it away.
Precisely. You have to manage the technology's intrusion. And we haven't even touched on security, the Zoom bombing risk at a funeral.
Oh, God. I've heard horror stories about this during the pandemic.
It's a real threat. If you have a digital guestbook linked to that program and you post the link publicly on Facebook for friends and family, you are inviting the entire internet into a private moment of grief.
You're inviting trolls to a funeral.
It happens. The guides are very, very clear on this. Use view-only links, password protect things if you can, moderate the guestbook in real time. You do not want a stranger uploading inappropriate images to a memorial wall that is being projected on a screen in the chapel.
That is a true nightmare scenario. Okay, so the consensus seems to be that we need to bridge this gap. We need the paper for the Saturday service and for the grandmother in the front row. We need the digital for the cousin in London and for the archive. And the bridge is the humble QR code.
The humble and surprisingly tricky QR code.
Right. The section on this in the report was so technical, it wasn't just stick a code on the back. They called it the science of the QR code.
It really is a form of engineering
Yeah.
because you have to design for the absolute worst-case scenario.
And what is the worst-case scenario for a QR code?
A dim, candlelit chapel. A user who is 80 years old, who is crying, who has shaky hands, holding a 5-year-old smartphone, trying to scan a tiny square of pixels from 2 feet away.
Okay, when you put it like that, the margin for error is basically zero.
Pretty much. So rule number 1 from the experts, size matters. The code must be between 0.8 and 1.2 inches square.
Why that specific range? It seems so precise.
It's the arm's length optic ratio. If it's smaller than 0.8 inches, the camera lens on most phones just can't resolve the detail in low light from a natural reading distance. The user has to get awkwardly close, and then their own phone casts a shadow on the paper, making it even harder to scan.
So it creates a feedback loop of failure.
Exactly. And if it's too big, it's just aesthetically ugly. But the bigger technical failure, the one that trips up everyone, comes from the paper choice. The sources are absolutely adamant. You must use matte paper.
No glossy finishes. Why not? Glossy seems more premium.
It does, but think about the lighting in a funeral home or a church. It's often overhead track lighting or chandeliers. If you use glossy paper, those bright lights reflect off the surface directly into the phone's camera lens.
Creating a glare.
A massive glare. To a camera, that glare looks like white noise. It completely obliterates the black and white contrast of the code. The camera just hunts for focus and never locks on.
And now you have a guest who's frustrated and fiddling with their phone during a eulogy.
It's a complete user experience failure. And it's so easily avoided.
There was also a note in there about the quiet zone. That sounds peaceful, but I'm assuming it's a technical term.
It is. It refers to the empty white border around the code itself. A QR code needs high contrast to be recognized. If you crop a photo or a design pattern right up against the black pixels of the code, the scanner can't tell where the data starts and the background image ends.
So you need a buffer.
You need a buffer of at least 4 modules. Those are the little dots that make up the code of pure white space around the entire edge. No exceptions.
And placement on the program, where does it go?
Never, ever on the front cover.
That feels like common sense. You don't want a barcode next to a portrait.
You would be surprised. From a design and etiquette perspective, the front is sacred ground. It's for the deceased. Their face, their name, their dates. Slapping a machine-readable barcode on someone's forehead is just. It's aesthetically violent. It belongs on the back cover in a bottom corner. Discreet and functional.
I really liked the tip in the guide about using dynamic codes. This felt like a magician's trick.
It's the ultimate failsafe. It's brilliant. A standard QR code is static. It's hard-coded to point to one specific URL. If you print 500 programs and then realize the URL is broken or the live stream link changed, you are dead in the water.
You're left with 500 beautiful, useless pieces of paper.
Right. But a dynamic code doesn't point directly to the final destination. It points to a redirect server. This means you can log into a dashboard after the programs have been printed and change where that code sends people.
So the paper is already in their hands in the chapel, but you can change the destination from your laptop at home.
That's it exactly. If the church Wi-Fi fails and you have to switch last minute to a Facebook live stream, you just log in, update the link in the back end, and suddenly every single printed program in that room now directs to the new working Facebook stream. It essentially allows you to update the paper in real time.
That is just incredibly smart engineering. Okay, so we've covered the history, the economics, the environment, and the design mechanics of this little piece of paper. Now I want to get a little weird. Let's look at part 6 of the outline, the future. Because the sources are talking about things like AI and tech morticians.
The industry is moving incredibly fast.
Yeah.
We are already seeing things like AI event capture, which is mostly just back-end software to make the funeral home more efficient. But the real disruption, the thing that is on the horizon, is digital avatars.
Okay. This is the stuff that feels straight out of a sci-fi novel. You mean digital twins of the dead?
Yes. Companies are using AI, training it on a deceased person's entire digital footprint, their text messages, their emails, their voice recordings, their social media posts, their videos, to create an interactive avatar.
Interactive how? So I could attend a funeral, hold up my phone, and talk to the person in the casket.
Theoretically, yes. Or, more likely, an avatar on a screen. You could ask, "Grandma, what was your favorite memory of the farm?" And the avatar would answer in her synthesized voice based on all the data it was trained on.
Wow. That evokes a very visceral reaction in me. And I'm not sure it's a good one.
You are not alone. The sources cite a massive ethical divide on this issue. About 1/3 of heirs and family members are vehemently opposed to this. They find it macabre, it's the uncanny valley, or they just see it as a denial of the reality of death.
But the other 2/3?
Some see it as the ultimate form of legacy preservation. They argue, why should my great-grandchildren only see a static, silent photo of me? Why shouldn't they be able to ask me a question and hear my story in my own words?
It fundamentally changes the definition of being gone.
It completely blurs the line. And to manage all this new technology, we are seeing the rise of a new profession, or at least a new specialty, the tech mortician.
Is that a real job title people are using?
It's becoming one. It's a funeral director who is also getting certifications in virtual reality and augmented reality operation. They have to know how to troubleshoot a hologram.
A hologram. We're at holograms now.
The concept is being tested. They're called memory parks. The idea is that cemeteries can stay beautiful, open, green spaces, but instead of granite headstones, you have GPS markers. You walk up to a spot, you put on AR glasses, and you see a holographic projection of the person standing there, maybe sharing a memory.
So it's invisible to the naked eye, but a digital reality is overlaid onto the physical grave.
Exactly. And the environment could even react to you. The reports mention smart benches with biometric sensors that could detect your heart rate or posture. And if you seem sad, play ambient music or the deceased's favorite songs to match or soothe your mood.
It's smart home technology applied to the graveyard.
It creates a curated, immersive, and highly personalized experience of grief. But it brings us right back to the central tension we started this whole conversation with.
Which is, what are we actually trying to achieve here with all this technology?
Are we trying to remember? Or are we trying to refuse to forget?
That really is the question, isn't it? Okay, so let's try to synthesize all of this. We've gone from the simple, tactile weight of a cardstock program that steadies the hands,
all the way to a holographic avatar that talks back to you from beyond the grave.
The through line here is that the funeral program has transformed. It is no longer a static notification, a simple schedule. It has become a dynamic, persistent digital presence.
And the choice for families is no longer binary. It's not tradition or technology.
It's strategic.
It's strategic redundancy. It's a hybrid model. You use the paper to ground the people who are physically in the room, to respect the silence, the Sabbath, the raw emotion of the moment. And you use the digital to break the boundaries of time and space, to reach the global family and to preserve the history forever.
And whether it's a piece of paper or a pixel on a screen, the core goal remains the same: to guide, to inform, and to somehow preserve the incredible weight of a life.
Beautifully put.
But as we always do on the deep dive, we want to leave you, our listener, with a final provocative thought, something to chew on.
And here it is. We talked about the degradation of paper, how it yellows and creases and fades over time. And we talked about the permanence of digital avatar, the AI that never gets tired, the website that never ages.
Right. The physical ages, the digital is immortal.
So as we move toward these AI memorials and these persistent cloud legacies, are we simply preserving memories? Or are we creating a version of the deceased that prevents us from ever truly letting go?
If they are always online, always available to answer back, do we ever actually complete the grieving process?
Perhaps the immutability of the digital age, its perfect memory, actually hinders the natural, messy human need for closure. Maybe the fact that paper fades, maybe that's actually a feature, not a bug.
Maybe we and our memories are supposed to fade.
Maybe.
That is a lot to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of remembrance.
Thank you. It was a fascinating conversation.
We'll see you next time.